Okay, well, here we are again. It's Thursday evening. It's day three of this fast, and yesterday I didn't make a stream because I was a bit sick. Actually, this hasn't exactly gone as planned, um, but it's not bad, not bad. Um, yeah, yesterday I just started to get a really strong headache, and when I started to read about what the fasting was and how it went, it became obvious that the changeover into this ketosis can cause a bit of problems. So sorry, I'll just have someone that I just got someone that was maybe looking at joining me on the stream. So just excuse me for a second. I'm talking to myself, but okay. So yeah. So what happened was I did this Tuesday stream, and that went pretty well actually. It's been quite interesting. The coffee and the chewing gum has just fell away. Um, I haven't had a desire for either of them, um, and it's the same with the food. But I'm not hungry, but I think that might be because of this ketosis, going into ketosis and not being on the glucose. So I decided. So what happened yesterday? I just started the day with a headache in the front, and then at the end of the day, it came into the back. And so in the evening, I just decided, oh, okay, there's no point in being in pain. I wasn't suffering. There was a slight story that was happening, um, but it wasn't very bad. But but I just decided in the end, okay, just go and have something to eat. I took some Barana, I took some Panadol, and I went and had some eggs, and and yeah, it was fine. I didn't feel bad at all. And in the end, when I went to sleep, I was feeling a lot better in the after the Barana. And then this morning I woke up, and yeah, the same thing. I haven't had the feeling for coffee, and also for the chewing gum, I haven't had any. I've walked past this bowl a couple of times and felt a small impulse, but just very small and habitual more than anything. Um, so, and then today I made a pie, so I've just had some pie, and I think I'm going to keep it going, at least keep trying to do the ketosis. Um, but I mean, that's not really the reason I did it. The reason I did it was to become a bit more aware of what addictions, what was happening with the addictions and things, and that side of it seems to have worked, has sorted itself out. So today I was a little bit like, what am I going to do tonight in relation to this? Um, and I haven't been so stringent or strict on the social media side of things. Um, I'm still looking at doing like moving into these other areas with the business in terms of the marketing, the short videos especially. And I had some thoughts today about that, and I've just been getting together the accounts, separating the accounts with my account. But okay, but anyway, enough of that. It's just me here by myself, so it's a bit silly to just continue talking to myself. So let's do some self inquiry. Um, so I'm just going to take this time to do a little exploration of what's happening within myself, and I noticed that doing the fasting brought me into the body quite strongly. It was quite um, it was quite interesting to hold a lot more attention of what was going on in the body. So, so I'm not. I don't know. I don't feel like I'm suffering at all today. Um, but let's just look into the body and see what's here, and maybe something will generate. Um, yeah, there's still an addiction to the social media stuff, but I've got the feeling maybe I should isolate that and put it over here, um, and just do that as a week. But anyway, this is a good way to start self inquiry if you're a little bit too heady, if a little bit too much is going on in the head. Um, and what you want to do is just, if this rolling that's happening in the head, generally it's an escape from something that's happening in the body. So what we want to do is expand the attention to start to include the body and include the place that we're trying to get away from. Um, and you can do that by looking at other, or by putting the attention or expanding the attention to include senses. So one easy way is just listening. Um, I don't have a lot that's happening in my mind at the moment, but if this was a if this was a problem and I was caught here, then I would expand the attention out to include like listening to the sounds at the moment, as well as listening to the voice or the thought that's happening in the mind. Yeah, and so I'm just, as I listen, I hear different things like the sound of the computer, and I hear there's a low hum of the air pump, and I can just hear the little movements of my body as I um, move. And then you can like look into the breath then. So I hear the sound of my breathing. So I'm not trying to push anything away that might be in the mind. Again, at the moment, my mind's very, very still. Um, I've just got a few vague body image sort of that are happening, but we're not trying to push this away. We're just trying to expand the attention, because it's the attention that's a like a strong component of suffering. The attention towards, the attention away. Sometimes you get locked into something. There's an obsession happening in the mind. So you can just expand the attention to include that obsession, and then there's no effort in that. So if I come back to the breathing, I'm just noticing the breath, and I start to come into the body now too. Um, and actually, I can hear the sound of my voice, which is quite interesting. If I had my quack hat on here, I would probably put it on and start to investigate that. Um, it's interesting. Mm, how do I explain this? It's interesting to explore the familiarity that comes through with the sound of our own voices, and the identity that's there with the voice. I don't know. It's like a little bit. It's complicated. It's a bit complicated to explain if you've never looked in this way. But it's interesting to see the sound of the voice with with identity and then without identity and then with identity and then without identity. Um, but I'm getting a little bit sidetracked here. So I'm recognizing the sort of vibration of the air in the back of the throat. Um, and I'm noticing that that's here. I'm a little bit noticing that there's a sensation in the back of the neck. And I'm just bringing the attention down the shoulders. Just seeing if there's any stress there. And just the awareness of the stress is enough at times to reduce the stress. It's kind of like, you're tight and then you put some attention there and you're like, oh, okay, I see. And then there's a relaxation in that. And then you can go further with self inquiry. So if there was some tension there, I'm feeling a little bit of something in the neck and the shoulder. I've had a sore shoulder from this snowboarding accident, and it's been a bit challenging to sleep in the evenings. And I notice that I've got a little bit of pain in the neck. So so um, so what I'm doing is I'm putting some attention there, and I'm just noticing what comes up into the mind, what stories are around that I might be telling myself about this pain, this actually, and it doesn't feel like pain in the moment. It just feels like sensation. So I notice the other side too. So it's an interesting thing. If something's happening on one side of the body, to go to the other side of the body and notice what's happening there. And usually there's some, well, not usually, but sometimes there's a link between the sensations. And this part of the body is not separate from this part of the body. And no part of the body is separate from any other part of the body. So um, it's intrinsic in the suffering that we separate things. So the story would be, I've got a sore shoulder, or sore right side of the body, and to believe that's actual is part of the suffering. It's intrinsic in the suffering. So if we can see how that arises and let that pass away, and then we experience things in a more holistic way, and um, there's less things that the story can grab onto. There's less assumptions in the story, and if you can't make a story about something, then you can't suffer, which is really interesting. But I'm just going to go down. I keep going through the body. I'm going to the shoulder now, and I'm just like, there's a sense of protecting it that's here. I notice that in the image in my mind. Yeah, it doesn't like seem like a strong amount of suffering because of that protection. Um, the only thing is that it's a little bit up in the mind. It's an idea that I'm walking around with, that I need to protect it in some way. And okay, and uh, I can see that it's the start of a story. Like, I can easily make it into a victim story by mm, by using that start, by using that idea of protecting it. Mm. Okay, so So what I'm doing is I'm letting that story come in and I'm letting it sort of play through my mind. That and it's like for me, it's a visual story. It's a visual sort of thing I'm seeing. I'm seeing myself hold my arm in a particular protective manner, and I'm on guard for anyone that might touch it or hurt me in some way. That I can get the story generating of being a victim and get sympathy from it. I see in my it's interesting. I see in my mind such a small thing. I see in my mind that I can use that to get sympathy, or I can use it to get, like, to blame someone and feel better than them, to feel like morally higher. Um, and so as that story progresses, I'm looking into my body as well and noticing what's happening in the body. So, so in that victim story, what happens is there's a contraction in the arm that occurs, and it brings like more pain. It's a suffering. Hmm, it's on top of the pain that's already there. That that movement. It's hard to explain, but it's obvious. And so that see, I'm making myself hurt more so I can be more of a victim in a way, which means I can get more of the thing that I think that I don't have, which is like love or attention or something like that. Okay, so it's branches. There's definitely branches here. There's a victim sort of thing going on, and then there's this blaming going on. So the victim part of it is here at the moment. I'm noticing that as the victim, as I become the victim, the sensation or the pain that's here contracts, and it's tighter, and um, it kind of makes me more of a victim. So I watch that play out in the mind. Like, where does that go to? What's the end of this? Because again, the suffering is this snippets of stories. It's never the whole story. It's part of the story. So so you can let it play out either way, and it will bring you around to the truth. Okay, so the question that arises, I'm watching this response that happens in my mind when someone just touches me or, you know, hurts me in some way, even superficially, even a superficial kind of. And this happens with my wife a little bit. I guess it's because we're together all the time, but I can see that it's not just her, it's the other. So where does it go to? Okay, so what happens is these two combine in that I become the victim, and there's a massive amount of blame there to the other person. Uh, it's kind of just an act. Okay, so interesting. It's sort of there's a bit of a push in my mind to get some answer. I feel that, and then it falls back into okay, just watch the story and watch the arm, see what's going on here, and then it pushes me in the story into this place of sort of discombobulation or sort of disassociation. It's like another level of the relationship to the pain. Ah, okay, I see. So having that person there allows me to, it allows an escape from the sensation, from the pain. And the thought is that if I can get away by blaming or by, being a victim and, engaging in this whole relativity kind of thing, that that it will stop me from feeling the pain. But it does the opposite. It does the opposite. Hmm. Interesting. Okay, and then interesting. So there's other parts of my body I do this to too, like the lower back. There's this element of it's like you kind of complain to someone about something. This is sore. Or, I can't do this. Or, I can't do that. It's propagating the suffering. Mm. Okay, so now I'm just coming back to the where the area of pain is. And I don't feel pain at the moment. I feel the sensation that's there, but I don't feel pain. And then I'm also going to the lower back. Um, and at the moment, my legs are feeling a little bit stretched. So there's a sense of could be pain there. Yeah, it's interesting. I don't understand why the response is the same. The response is like a record. It's an old. Mm. Yeah, it's an old form of escape. Yeah, this might make any sense to you at all if you're at home, but all that's happening is insight is arising. As I feel and I watch the thoughts that are coming, then and I don't move from there, then insight arises and it pushes me along. In some ways, it balances out the thought that's causing pain, and then it can fall away. But what I'm seeing at the moment is this mechanism, and it's the same. Hmm. Yeah, yeah, it's the same. It's a mechanism to escape something that's conditioned into us. Like we do it ourselves. Maybe we get it from someone else. Hmm. I'm a little bit reminded of a book I read once that talks about the Celestine prophecy. The Celestine prophecy. It talks about these relationships that we have with other people, um, and that it's all about this, like trying to get energy from people, and that there was four different types of movements. Mm. Mm. Okay, so I'm here with the shoulder now. It's quite a few interesting things, but let's just come back to the shoulder. Okay, and I notice that there's a relationship to it. There's a response to it, and it comes as this kind of shrieking away from it. Oh. Okay, so noticing that and being with that and moving through that has brought a lot of attention up into the face. Okay, and it's brought a little bit of like pain now. I would say there's a pain in the shoulder. And I'm just aware of the gap between the two, between the sensation of me and the pain in the shoulder, and then the gap between the two. So the neck, and that's where this pain. That's where we started actually with the pain. Yeah, and there's a shying away that's happening with the sort of the neck and the shoulder, and that's part of the reason is again because of that movement away. And it's consistent because I'm holding that image in my mind of moving away, of me and the shoulder being two almost, and this need to move away. It's a strong idea in my mind, and it's probably playing underneath everything all the time. That's creating a tension on the neck. And also the it's creating a response in the shoulder. So let's see if self inquiry will come here. Mm. I see this kind of exaggerated fear about the shoulder, about the pain, let's say, that's happening in my mind. Mm. Maybe it's a bit like better to visualize it as, say, there's something outside of you, like a snake or something like that. And your body, like you notice it, and the fear comes from the snake. So your body moves to get away from it. But say that you can't get away from it and you're stuck in that position of moving, and the like the strain on the body to get away is quite strong. And if there's no, you know, if you can't get away from the pain, then that sense of fear and needing to get away is always here. And what are they? There's some words for it. It's kind of low level anxiety, or and it's similar to that, but it's because of the pain. There's a fear of the pain. I don't know how to explain it. Um, all I can do is just stay here and be with it. So I'm noticing there's an image of this part of the body, and there's a response happening where I'm looking down in my mind at the sensation, and it's almost like terror, which is very interesting. And there's something about the pain too. It's like a, it's like a doorway, or a door with light behind it or something. I don't fully understand it, but so I'm just sitting with that, and there's different sensations that are happening in the body. That, like, the neck part of it is very interestingly, finely, the sensations moving through that area of pain, and it released itself, so the image is not so solid now. Okay, and there's just other images now that are coming with other sensations. Like the neck has gotten a bit higher, the sensation's gotten a bit higher, and the image now is looking at that part of it and reacting to that part of it. So this is like, it's very important, this part, in that if you having something happen, the suffering is always in the relationship to that thing. On the basic level, separation is the cause of suffering. Any form of separation that's happening, seeming separation, because if you look, you'll see that you're not separate, but you have to look. Um, I'm not suggesting it as a dogma that you walk around saying that everything is one, or if there's suffering, then there's the experience of suffering, and it's only through, like, self inquiry or some other form of it that you'll recognize that the two things aren't two, that they're one. So on that level, on the basic level, it's separation. And then you look at, okay, what what am I as an identity? What am I? What's my relationship to the thing? Because suffering psychological. It's a psychological. I don't know. Probably a psychologist or someone else might be able to explain this better. But suffering is always contains a sense of I and something else. So if it's the shoulder, right, the pain, it's the sense of me and the sense of the pain. And actually, both of these are happening in my mind, the idea of me and the idea of the pain. So you want to look at that relationship that's going on. How do I feel about the pain? Because that's where the suffering is. Pain itself is just pain, but the story that goes around it of me and the pain is where the suffering is. Okay, so I'm coming back to the shoulder again, and I'm taking in the neck. I seem to be having a little bit of cramps in my hand, which is quite strange, but take that in as well. Oh, okay. So what happened was there was a neutral point in relation to the pain, and then there was a turning towards the pain in my mind, the symbol of the pain, which was a body image, and the sense of me, which was also a body image, but of the face. And and in that moment, they came together. So what's left? Okay, this sensation. It's a bit higher now, actually. I'm a little bit reminded of another person that I used to work with as well, and he had chronic stomach pains. Um, and the story was so great for him that he couldn't get any space at all to move away from it. And he had to take medication. He had to medicate to relieve the pain so that he could investigate the pain, investigate his relationship to the pain. Hmm. It's quite deep, actually. Yeah, I mean, there's many parts of that story that you can investigate. You can investigate it sounds stupid. If I had my hat, I'd be putting it on again, right? But you can investigate the area, the location of the sensation, because it's a thought in the mind that gives it a location. It gives it a particular part of the, like, Mm. It gives it a particular location in the body. You can investigate that, but then also you can investigate the sense of self that's here. And if you can see that, oh, it's the me in this moment in relation to the pain is something that's happening in the mind. Yeah, it's another area of investigation. If that's not an option at all, then it's challenging to move through stories in relation to pain. Yeah, I mean, it comes full circle again. So, so notice that that it's still all happening up in the mind. If it's here, the pain is here, then the furthest away we can get in reality, seemingly, is up into our minds, into the space of our minds. But we get trapped there because we don't recognize what's going on. I remember when I used to do Vipassana, um, after a certain point in the 10 days, they ask you not to move for 1 hour 3 times a day, or maybe it's an hour and a half. But the idea is that you get there, you get sort of settled, and then you don't move no matter what happens. And there's a purpose to it too, because you start to get these, definitely you get some strong pains, but you get little things like scratching and itching and usually like it's a form of suffering as well in a way because there's something here that we want to get rid of, and so we make the action to get rid of it. And it's not necessarily suffering, but it's got the same sort of elements to it. And um, if you sit with scratching or itching and don't do anything about it, you can notice you can notice your own like reaction to it that happens in the mind. Oh, it's too much or it's too overwhelming or whatever. Or maybe you can just sit, and sort of grin and bear it. Or maybe it's not so bad that you can just be there and notice it, and it comes and it does its thing and then it goes away. And it's only with the story that it becomes this thing that we can't overcome. I'm waffling a little bit now. It's best to like experience these things rather than just talk about them. But just if I come back to the body again, yeah, I'm noticing different parts of the sensation itself is moving, going up the body and sort of up into the shoulder. Okay, there's a little bit of wincing, a little bit of reaction happening in my mind, but I can just kind of it's not so strong now. I can let it move through and do what it's doing, and then fall back to the sensation. And actually, other sensations come into the body now, other little pains, other things I would call pain before. not necessarily now. And it has that quality of, when your hand falls asleep or something like that. Like I'm feeling this stretch in the legs from keeping my legs out. And yeah, it's interesting. It's always the same with the pain that you think it's gonna, like something happens and this chain starts where you think it's going to be too much. Um, it happened too with the it happened with the food as well, almost like an addiction. Hmm. It's kind of like you start the story of like, oh, I can't do it. Oh, I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do it. And then you need to move or go through with the action. It's like the start of that is the start of that, and it just moves through. Ah, okay, so I'm going into the legs now because it's quite taut. My legs are quite taut, and there's a thought that says, well, what happens if this I have to stay like this forever? And there was a strong sort of response to that. And then different parts of the body like stand out. Yeah, and I notice that the sensation of my legs is has the image of my legs over the top of it. And when that falls away, it periodically falls away. Um, the sensation of my legs doesn't have the form of my legs. And then also because in that image of my legs is um, it contains the story of the pain, or it's hard to explain. There was a thought that maybe I can manipulate the image a little bit. Usually, what I do is I let the image be there, the body image, and then it will fall away at some point. And then I'll experience the sensation as just sensation. It's got no boundary, it's got no location. This is definitely a bit quacky, okay? You can turn off here if you don't want to hear this, but I can feel the sensation as without boundary, without limitations, without definitions, and sort of without location as well, which is interesting. Um, and usually, what happens is the image falls away, the body image just falls away, and there's the sensation, and then maybe the body image comes back, and it just moves and does its thing. But then I had the thought that maybe I can um, create an image that's Hmm. I don't know. This is a little bit beyond the scope of what this is. It's fine for me, but yeah, I wonder if the like passiveness of it all is. Hmm. Okay, well, hey, anyway, I think I'm going to call it there. It's funny where we ended up. I might explore that a little bit myself. Um, these things are always better when they're shared. So, um, I mean, it was fine for me, but if you're watching this, I don't know if you're getting anything out of it. It would be helpful if anyone does watch this to send me a message and tell me what you think. Um, but I think now I'm going to call it for this session and for this week as well. So thanks for anyone that's joined, and I'm happy to answer any questions. I mean, I think I went around a little bit, but I think it was just because I didn't have anything strong to look at. And it's always valuable to me to do this. So take it easy. Bye for now.